good day everyone. Now we are going to present to you the things that we have learned in the subject word literature.
I am Jemima Bidukusin from 2-CHARLIE and I'm going to discuss what is literature. So, literature is derived from the Latin term litera, which means letters. Literature is a body of written works. Literature is defined as linguistic evidence of the mental and emotional attempt of people to shed light on human struggles and aspiration. So, literature, it is a body of work, either written, oral, or visual, containing imaginative language that realistically portrays thought, emotions, and experience of human condition. According to Robert Frost, literature is performance in words. Literature is also defined as the written or oral composition that tells genres, dramatic situations, and expresses emotions, and analyzes and advocates ideas. And literature also refers to the creative and imaginative writing which is designed to engage readers emotionally and intellectually through the major literary genres such as novels, drama, and poetry and other subgenres like fable, parable, and short stories.
Balanon Roderick from Charlie, and this is what I'm going to report. What is word literature? So, Johann Wolfgang von Goethe introduced the concept of world literature or word literature. So, ang nag-introduce ng concept of world literature or word literature is si Johann Wolfgang von Goethe. And word literature is used to refer the total of the world's national literature and the circulation of works into the wider world beyond in their country of origin. So, ang sinasabi dito ay ang panitikang pandaigdigan ay ginagamit upang tukuyin ang kabuuan ng pambansang panitikan sa daigdig at sa sirkulasyon ng mga akda sa mas malawak na daigdig na lampas sa kanilang bansang pinagmulan.
Okay, so there are three aims of literature or yung layunin ng literature. First is to inspire and uplift the taste. So, by reading literary texts, it can change our values and virtues, and it can also inspire us to become a better one. Second, to read for pleasure. We all know that reading is a very good hobby that will not only improve our imagination, but also develops our vocabulary, which could be helpful in expressing our ideas and thoughts. Lastly, widens experiences. Experiences, as it said, it is the best teacher. By reading these literary texts, readers get to experience the things which they have not encountered before. This encounter is one of the priceless values that literature could offer. So, sa pamamagitan ng pagbabasa ng mga tekstong pampanitikan, nararanasan ng mga mambabasa o yung mga reader ang mga bagay na hindi pa nila naranasan noon.
Hi, I'm Mark Ian H. Velasco from 2-CHARLIE, and this is I'm going to report. Literary standards. Artistry. It appeals to the sense of beauty. So when we say artistry, is the quality of being creative or imaginative, and it is often used to describe the skill level of an artist or the beauty of a piece of art. Number 2, intellectual value. It can stimulate one's intellect and can enrich mental activity by realizing the basic truths in life in human nature. So, intellectual value is the worth of an idea or concept based on its ability to provide insight, knowledge, and understanding. Number 3, suggestiveness. A good literary works moves and strikes deeply the feeling and imagination. So, when we say suggestiveness, is the power of an idea or image to evoke an emotional, mental, or physical response. Number 4. Spiritual value. Literature elevates the spirit by bringing out moral values which can motivate readers to become a better person. So, spiritual value refers to the intangible qualities of something, such as its intangible power to bring one closer to a higher power. Together, these four qualities can help to make a piece of art powerful and meaningful.
Number 5. Permanence. A great work literature endures. It can be read repeatedly for its appeal is lasting. Number 6. Universality. A great literary piece of timeless and timely, forever relevant. It appeals to all anytime, anywhere because it deals universal and fundamental truths and conditions. Number 7. Style. It's the unique way in the which a particular writer sees life, forms ideas, and represents to the readers.
Two literary genres. Fiction. It is defined as narrative literary works whose content is produced by the imaginations and is not necessarily based on fact. Some examples are novels, fantasy, fables, and fairy tales. Fiction are literary works that are not factual. These are product of the author's imaginations. Non-fiction. It is short literary composition that reflect the author's outlook or point of view. Some examples are mirror, personal essays, literary journalism, and diaries. Non-fiction. This genre of literature based on fact. The people, event, and setting in non-fiction are real.
Hi, I am Mark Steven Pinasan Moral, BS Criminology, second year from Section Charlie. In this video, we'll talk about the different ingredients of literature, which are form, subject, and the point of view. Form. It is a verbal and artistic structuring of idea in any literary piece. It may be in form of stanzas, rhyme, meter for poetry, of arrangement, or the sequence in which ideas are developed for the novel. Form is important because the form of a piece of writing is simply its structure, how it is constructed and organized. Literary forms are like the roots of the literary family tree. Genres, in turn, are like the branches of the family tree. A genre is a specific style or category of writing. The form of a text is important because it indicates the writer's intentions, characters, or key themes. In this case, we are looking at how Stevenson creates his novel, looking at the different perspectives used. Structure is how the plot is ordered and put together for the reader. Another ingredient of literature is the subject. Subject refers to a person or idea, events, and human condition or system of value in which the topic of the poem deals with it. Subject, it is what is being talked about in any literary piece, and it could be treated in three levels. A. Literary subject, which could be found on the description. B. The generalization, which serve as a second level of subject. And C. The theme of the literary work. The last ingredient is the point of view. This is referred as the angle of vision of the narrator, first or second, and omniscient of modified omniscient points of view. It is the most complex ingredient of any literary piece as this focuses on the technical meaning of a term. However, your teachers must also expound on the point of view to include the attitudes of the writer, the characters, and the readers towards the subject of literature. Thus, we will also be dealing with the tone, conflict, and irony in the literature. And because the point of view is the most subjective, it is also the most difficult to define. But point of view helps you, the students, to know that effective literature is effective as well.
So we now move on to the literary elements. So number one element is the plot. It is the logical sequence of events that develops in the story. Plot is the series of events that takes place, and it is what happens in the story. Plot consists of exposition, rising action, climax, falling action, resolution, or denouement. Setting, it refers to the time and place in which a story takes place. Ito naman yung lugar at oras na pinangyarihan ng isang kwento. And we also have the protagonist. It is the main character of a story, novel, or a play. Ito yung bida sa kwento. Next is the antagonist. Ang antagonist naman is the character in conflict with the protagonist. Siya naman yung kontrabida sa kwento na against kay protagonist. And the fifth is the narrator. It is the person who tells the story. And we also have the narrative method. And the narrative method is the way a narrative is presented, comprising of a plot and settings. Ito yung kung paano na-present yung narration, and it consists of setting and a plot. And we also have a dialogue. Dialogue is where characters of a narrative speak to one another. It is the communication between the characters in the story. And 8 is the conflict. It is an issue in a narrative around which the whole story revolves. It is any struggle that the characters must overcome to achieve their goal. And we also have mood. Mood is a general atmosphere of a narrative. It is the emotional response that the writer wishes to evoke in the reader through a story. And we also have the theme, and it is the last element. It is the central idea or concept of a story, the main idea or an underlying meaning of a literary work, or it is the story's deeper meaning. So now we are now going to move on to the literary techniques or the literary devices. First is the imagery. It is the use of figurative language to create visual representations of actions, objects, and ideas in our mind in such a way that they appeal to our physical senses. Imagery describes things that appeals to our five senses, which are sense of sight, smell, taste, touch, and hearing. Examples. The golden rays of the setting sun reflected upon the clear waters of the lake. This is an example of visual imagery because it appeals to our sense of sight. Another example is that the crackling of the fire and popping of the logs filled the silence. This appeals to our sense of hearing because of the word crackling and popping. Second is simile. Simile is a figure of speech comparing two unlike things that is often introduced by like or as. It describes and compares two things using word like or as. Example, my brother and I fight like cats and dogs all the time. In this subject, it uses the word like. Another example, Janela is always as busy as a bee. Third, a metaphor is a figure of speech that describes an object or action in a way that isn't literally true, but helps explain an idea or make a comparison. It is the comparison between two unlike things. It doesn't use like or as. Example, her tears were a river flowing down her cheeks. Another example, the classroom was a zoo. Fourth, we have hyperbole. Hyperbole is deliberate exaggeration of actions and ideas for the sake of emphasis. In here, there is an exaggeration na nangyayari. Example, it's raining cats and dogs. Another example, I walked 1,000,000 miles to get there. We also have personification. Personification gives a thing, an idea, or an animal human quality. Dito naman sa hyperbole, binibigyang buhay niya yung mga bagay na walang buhay. Examples, my alarm clock yells at me to get out of bed every morning. Next example is, the flowers are begging for water. Next is alliteration. It refers to the same consonant sound in words coming together. Dito sa alliteration, nauulit yung mga consonant words. Example, Sally sells seashell by the seashore. So, in this example, the consonant word S, nauulit siya. And another example, go and gather green leaves on. Sa example naman na yon, yung consonant word na letter G, yung nauulit.
I am Diana Rusigaligo from Group 3. Today I'll be discussing the literary devices or techniques from number 7 to 11. So number 7, allegory. It is a literary technique in which an abstract idea is given a form of character, actions, or events. For example, The Tortoise and the Hare is one of the best remembered tales from Aesop's fable. Number 8, irony. It is use of the words in such a way in which the intended meaning is completely opposite to the literal meaning. For example, a pilot has a fear of heights. Another example, an English teacher has a poor grammar. Number 9, foreshadowing. It is a literary device in which a writer gives an advance hint of what is to come later in the story. For example, a prime example of dialogue foreshadowing occurs in Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet. When Romeo says, "My life is better ended by their hate than death prorogued, wanting of thy love." This line foreshadows Romeo's eventual fate, committing suicide over the loss of Juliet. Number 10, flashback. A device that moves an audience from the present moment in a chronological narrative to a scene in the past. For example, a woman is about to get married. As she put on her veil, she remembered her fiancé 3 years before, swearing he would make her his wife someday. A tear comes to her eye and she prepares to walk down the aisle. Lastly, symbolism. It is usually an object that represents an idea that is significantly deeper, although it is sometimes a word, event, or deed. For example, life is a roller coaster. Another example, color white stands for purity, black represents evil, roses stands for romance, butterfly symbolizes transformation, and dog can represent loyalty.
Thank you guys for listening and God bless.